The blizzard screamed across the frozen wasteland of Krevtar IV, a planet where ice ruled supreme and mercy died long ago. Two massive forms lay half-buried in snowdrifts. Their scales, once brilliant crimson and deep azure, now dulled by frost and despair. The Drakthar were dying. Commander Zaxthor of the Crimson Fleet flexed his clawed hand weakly, the quantum suppression chains around his neck humming with malevolent energy. Beside him, Navigator Valkyra's breathing came in ragged gasps, her wing membranes torn and frozen stiff. How long? Valkyra's telepathic voice barely whispered through their shared consciousness. Hours, maybe less. Zaxthor's inner eyelid flickered. The humans, they won the battle. Left us here. As they should. Valkyra's mental tone carried no bitterness, only resignation. We burned their colony. 300,000 souls. Zaxthor said nothing. What defense could he offer? The Drakthar Empire had ordered the assault. They had obeyed. Now they would pay the price, not through execution, but through abandonment on this ice hell, chained with technology that suppressed their natural thermoregulation. A slow, cold death. Through the howling wind, a shape emerged. Zaxthor's predator instincts flickered despite his weakness. Bipedal. Small. Moving with difficulty through the deep snow. Human. The figure wore an orange thermal suit, the kind worn by the colony's maintenance workers. It stumbled closer, and Zaxthor could see the frost forming on the suit's viewport. This human was struggling, perhaps dying too in this storm. Good, part of him thought. Let them suffer as we do. But the human didn't pass by. It stopped 3 meters away, breathing heavily, fogging the viewport. Jesus Christ, came a female voice through the suit's external speaker. You're really here? Valkyra's eyes cracked open. Human, why, haven't you run? The woman, for her voice identified her as such, stepped closer. I'm Lisa Chen. I was in the lower habitat when you attacked. Lost my daughter in the fire. Zaxthor felt something cold settle in his chest that had nothing to do with the temperature. Then kill us. You've earned the right. Lisa was silent for a long moment. The wind shrieked around them. Maybe I should, she said quietly. Then she moved forward, pulling a thermal lance from her belt. This is it, Zaxthor thought. A warrior's death at least. But Lisa didn't activate the weapon. Instead, she examined their chains. Quantum suppression collars. The rebels used these on political prisoners before the unification. I studied them in engineering school. She paused. If I remove these, can you generate body heat again? Yes, Valkyra whispered. But why? Shut up. I'm thinking. Lisa circled them slowly, her boots crunching in the snow. My daughter Sarah was 6. She loved dragons. Had every picture book, every vid, every toy. When the first Drakthar delegation visited Earth, she made me take her to see them. She said you looked just like her storybooks. Zaxthor closed his eyes. The cruelty of this moment. To hear about the child. To know what they'd done. She would have hated this, Lisa continued. Seeing you left here to die. She always cried when the dragons in her stories got hurt. A bitter laugh. Stupid, right? Crying for the aliens who killed her. The thermal lance hummed to life. Valkyra flinched, but Lisa directed the beam at her collar's lock mechanism. Carefully, precisely. The quantum field flickered and died. Valkyra gasped as her biology surged back online, heat flooding through her body. Why? Valkyra demanded, struggling to understand. Because Sarah would have wanted me to. Lisa moved to Zaxthor's collar. And because staying human means not becoming what I hate. Even when I want to. God help me, even when I want to. Zaxthor felt the collar release, felt his body roar back to life. He could kill this woman now, easily. She had given him the power, but he couldn't move. Not from weakness, but from something else entirely. Lisa stepped back, stumbling slightly. Her suit's warning lights blinked. Power at 15%. She'd given too much energy to the thermal lance. Go, she said. Your ship crashed 8 kilometers north. If you move now, you might reach it before I bleed my suit dry getting back to the outpost. Come with us, Valkyra said suddenly. We can carry you. Keep you warm. No. Lisa's voice was firm. I'm not interested in mercy from you. I needed to not be the person who could walk away. For Sarah. For me. She turned into the wind. Zaxthor's body moved before his mind caught up. He lunged forward, wrapping his wing around Lisa, his body temperature soaring to combat levels. Navigator support position. Valkyra didn't hesitate. Together they created a heat pocket around the human. What are you doing? Lisa struggled weakly. Learning, Zaxthor said. You gave us life when we deserved death. Now we ensure you survive. This is the least we can do. I don't want your gratitude, then consider it payment, Valkyra interrupted, for teaching us what mercy looks like. Through the storm, they moved together, two former enemies and one grieving mother, bound by an act of impossible compassion. When the rescue teams found them huddled together at the outpost entrance, they couldn't make sense of it. The Drakthar had been sentenced to execution by exposure. The human had been nowhere near the crash site. But James Walker, the colony's security chief, saw the thermal signatures in the recovered footage. He saw Lisa approach the dying aliens, saw her free them, saw them save her in return. He forwarded the file to Earth Command with a simple note. Maybe there's hope for peace after all. And in the medical bay, as they recovered, Lisa sat between two hospital beds, holding the clawed hand of one dragon while the observation deck of the Krathor diplomatic vessel hummed with its usual low frequency, a sound that made human bones vibrate uncomfortably. Lisa Chen stood at the reinforced viewport, her reflection ghostly against the starfield beyond. She didn't hear James approach until his hand touched her shoulder. You okay? He asked, though the answer was written clearly on her face. Lisa wiped her eyes quickly, but not quickly enough. Just homesick, I guess. It's my daughter's birthday today. She's turning 6 and I'm 300 light years away. James nodded, understanding the weight of their mission. They were the first human ambassadors to the Krathor, a species that had dominated this sector of space for millennia. The Krathor were apex predators, 8 feet tall, covered in dark-scaled hide with eyes that could track movement in near-total darkness and jaws capable of crushing titanium. Their young were born with hunting instincts that activated within days of hatching. I should get back to the quarters, Lisa said, her voice thick. The translator algorithms won't review themselves. But as she turned, she froze. 3 Krathor cubs stood in the corridor entrance, their crested heads barely reaching her waist. Their golden eyes were fixed on her with an intensity that sent primitive warnings racing through her hindbrain. These weren't pets or helpless infants. Even at this age, their claws could shred synthetic armor, and their bite force exceeded that of Earth's extinct megafauna. The largest cub, whom the humans had mentally nicknamed Striker for his aggressive playstyle, tilted his head. His nostrils flared, scenting the chemical signature of her tears. A low rumble came from his chest, not quite a growl, but something that made James's hand move instinctively toward the neural stunner at his belt. Easy, Lisa whispered, not sure if she was talking to James or herself. Then Striker did something unexpected. He turned and bounded down the corridor with surprising speed. The other 2 cubs remained, watching her with unblinking intensity. Maybe we should, James began. But Striker was already returning, something clutched in his foreclaw. The cub approached slowly, cautiously, in a way that seemed almost nervous. He stopped 3 feet from Lisa and carefully placed an object on the floor, then backed away 2 steps. It was a play kill, a sophisticated Krathor toy designed to simulate prey animals for hunting practice. This one was clearly well used, its synthetic hide worn from countless mock hunts. To give it to someone else was, by Krathor standards, an enormous gesture. Lisa stared at the toy, then at the cub. Striker's posture was submissive, his crest lowered in a way the humans had learned indicated respect or uncertainty. He's trying to comfort you, James breathed, amazement coloring his voice. The second cub, smaller and quicker, suddenly darted away. The third, a female with distinctive blue markings, remained on guard. Within moments, the small one returned with his own treasure, a puzzle sphere that taught spatial reasoning and attack angles. He placed it beside Striker's offering. The female cub watched for another moment, then she too disappeared into the warren of corridors. Lisa found herself sinking to her knees, overwhelmed by the gesture. These were apex predators, beings whose instincts told them to dominate, to hunt, to establish hierarchy through strength. Yet here they were, responding to her distress with empathy. More cubs began to arrive. They came from the nursery levels, from training rooms, from the recreation spheres. Each carried something precious, their favorite toys, their most prized possessions. A combat simulator, A holographic star chart that projected constellations, a thermal rock they used for napping, a miniature gravity sleeve the other hummed a Drakthar healing song. It wouldn't bring Sarah back. Nothing would, but it meant Sarah's world, the one where dragons could be saved, where mercy could bloom even in ice and hatred. That world could still exist. Sometimes that was enough to keep living for.